So when did you know that you wanted to become a Navy SEAL, and what or who was the inspiration for you to do so?
Yeah, it's a good question. I wasn't one of those guys that knew from my earliest thoughts, this is what I wanted to do. I want to make an impact in my service, whatever it is. That's kind of what I felt in response to that happening. And from that day forward, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I thought about it every day.
Tell us about the boat and what the individual, there's 6 people with every boat, right? 6.
Right, 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah, and tell us about the boat and what goes on with that.
So you have these boat crews, and you're organized by height, and that's important because, as I mentioned, most of the time, if you're not paddling this boat in the ocean or the bay, well, you got to move it. So you run with it resting on your head. If someone's exhausted, the way you would think about getting relief is, I just kind of scrunch down a little bit, just kind of duck my head. All of a sudden, I have less weight on my head. But as a result, I've distributed that weight among my teammates, my boat crewmates, who are carrying it instead of me. It's called boat ducking, and it was one of the capital sins of Hell Week.
So tell us about the bell.
So at any time, a candidate can quit. They call it drop on request, DOR. But there's a tradition in BUD/S of when you quit, you announce that by ringing this bell. It's about a shoebox-sized bell. They have to ring real loud and announce that you're quitting.
Did you ever once think about ringing that bell? Conor Donahue, welcome back to Personal and Professional Best.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, last month we talked about your journey to becoming a Navy SEAL and some of what life is like to be a SEAL. I'd like to take a step back and really finish that conversation, and then move into a conversation about the sacrifices that are required, personal and otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So the word sacrifice, it can be a religious word, right? We all know the story of Jesus and sin and what he did. And for non-believers, of course, it's just a story. But I watch movies sometimes that aren't even real. And generally speaking, when we see someone sacrifice or something sacrificed, it draws us to it. So sacrifice, whether you're a believer or not a believer, is something, it's a real kind of thing. Does sacrifice, does it always proceed in your way of thinking best or getting better?
Yeah. You think about what best implies, and it's about going to a level maybe you haven't been before, going bigger than what you're capable of. You're kind of outside of yourself. And so to some degree, just inherently, you have to discipline or go against your self-interest, let's say. And that's essentially the essence of sacrifice, is foregoing my self-interest. And that's an important element of any kind of noble pursuit, let's say. And I think the SEAL training and what everything represents in our society, I think a lot of times we look at it for, wow, that's amazing how to endure a lot of pain, or that really probably helps you in times that are difficult and, unexpected setbacks in life. And it does, and I think people can draw strength from that. I think the unique thing about SEAL training is that each person volunteered for it. So beyond just enduring pain, it is almost voluntarily seeking out a path, even though it's going to have a lot of pain in that journey, because of that deep radical commitment we talked about, that's worth it. And so it's this idea of, even though that journey is going to be painful and it's going to require sacrifice, I accept that and bring it on. And, our instructors, they knew that too. At some of the toughest moments, they'd be on the Blair horn being like, just remember, you volunteered for this. Meaning this was like, it's your own fault. In what absurd way of like, you want to get mad at them, but like,
you're not so smart. You signed up for this.
You wanted this, and you still want this. But it really is. It's true. Meaning, like, I did want that, and we do want things in life that are worthwhile. They require that sacrifice, and we should voluntarily embrace that as part of it.
It's interesting because, millions of Americans every year say, "I do," till death do us part. As soon as you finish saying "till death do us part," you're married. The sacrifice starts. And if you'll be successful in that relationship, you will indeed have to make sacrifice to create success. When you get to be a parent, everyone celebrates, hey, this is something I really want. The moment the baby's born, mom sacrifices in the birth, but then both parties have to sacrifice time, treasure, themselves if they're going to do that job right.
Yeah.
If you want to work out and get in shape, you'll indeed make sacrifice, because no one really likes to go through that.
Right.
But what's on the other side is something exceptional, and it's no different in business, in our business lives. There's things that we have to do sacrificially for other people, and we choose to do it because we've signed up to do it, just like you did when you signed up for the SEAL, right?
Right.
Sign up to I want to be greatly married, and you sign up to I want to be a great parent. You sign up to getting in shape, making commitments.
Right.
You sign up to be committed to be your best in business. What comes next is no doubt you're going to have to invest and make sacrifice. So I have to ask you a question because, I'm sitting in the presence of a SEAL, humbled by the idea you made this a cause in your life, a mission, and that you served this country, defended our house. You're a radically committed guy. Who was the voice? Who did this to you? Who's the voice in your life? And what transcendent lesson did they deposit in your life that made you Conor Donahue and made you not ring the bell?
Yeah. I'd say the biggest influence in my life, the hero in my life, the person to this day I am still trying to be like and live up to, is my dad. I feel like I was blessed with just an incredible dad, and it had the biggest formative influence on my life. And certainly my mom's love was important there as well. But as a boy and as a young man, of who do I want to become and what should I be like? I have conscious thoughts throughout being a boy, even through college, even young adulthood, of being in circumstances and thinking that were unfamiliar or challenging. Was like, how would my dad handle himself in a situation? Like, how would he conduct himself? How would he carry himself? How would he treat this person? And so that really was the example I saw firsthand, and it was kind of my guiding light. And I think you think about, like, even I look back at like something like, being a SEAL, like, why did I think I could do that? That's crazy. And I was just a kid. I was a decent athlete, wasn't great, but like, why would I think that's possible? Well, then I look back at all these stages throughout my life, and my dad always believed in me. He believed in me before I believed in myself. He was affirming, he was encouraging. He's also there alongside me, building me up or showing me the way. We would go running around the block together. I ran my first road race at like 7 years old. Is because for weeks leading up to it, after work, he'd take me, we'd run and walk a little bit with my brother and I, and we'd run a little more. And there's this idea of, like, looking back of how busy he was with work and everything else, but he took that time because he wanted us to see, like, it's possible for you to do more than you think. You're capable of more than you think. And I'm going to show that to you. And then you're going to have this experience at a young age of accomplishment. And then you can build on it further and further. But he's always there, seeing ahead of me and believing into me.
I bet your dad wouldn't have rang the bell either.
No, he again, I think in many respects, I still feel like I'm humbled and in his shadow and try to live to that standard.
What's his name?
Terry.
Yeah. Well, Terry Donahue, thank you, because what you did as a parent, as a father, as a leader, to deposit into Conor has just affected so many other people's lives when you think about it. Yeah. Now you have 3 boys, right?
I do.
Yeah. So you're now holding a treasure.
Yeah.
And you'll, I'm sure, teach those transcendent lessons to your children.
Yeah.
I can imagine that that story's already being written. So, and we'll be much better as a country when parents really appreciate that when they ring the bell in life, in their marriage, when they ring the bell about how they invest or don't invest in their, in their family lives, in their business lives, what they do, the choices they make about how they honor, dishonor, ring the bell, don't ring the bell. Are they in for a cause? When the boat needs to be carried, are they the willing party? When they do all of that and live all of those lessons out, they give their children an amazing gift.
You're right. And, I think that experience, my SEAL training, it did help me to be a better dad, better husband. And I think what it did was it forced me to expect more of myself than I would have otherwise. I was dating then girlfriend who became my wife during the whole SEAL training. And, I decided I wanted to save myself for marriage. But I think that experience meant I wanted to go even further. And what I did was I said, I want to tell one woman, I love you. Only one woman. And so I say that, and I think a lot of people thought it was weird. My girlfriend at the time was like, what's going on here? But the day we got engaged, I said, I love you. And this idea of like, I want this to signal a radical commitment at a time when a lot of times it doesn't. And it didn't mean that I'm the perfect husband, but it's trying to send a signal that, hey, we have this phrase in SEAL teams, where I get back, when I get knocked down, I get back up every time. Well, part of it's kind of saying like, I'm sorry. And it's kind of like, try to recommit to that relationship and to approach it that same radical commitment mindset of like, I want to try to go all in on this and see what I can do to give and to serve more than just think about getting.
One of the things that we've constantly repeated on our program is it's not where you are in life that matters. It's where you're choosing to go tomorrow. Yeah. So to the extent that anyone in the audience today said, I do, and then uncommitted or not really committed completely to being your very best as parents or to carry the boat with your teammates in the workplace, it's okay, because today you can make a different choice.
Yeah.
And you can choose to learn from one of the best. We're going to talk afterwards about whether we name this program #Radical Commitment or #Meet a Badass. Anyway, so you leave the SEALs.
Yeah.
It's been your identity because that is certainly an identity, right? To be a Navy SEAL. And then what? What do you do next?
Yeah, and I think that was something that I was really thinking a lot about, which was, I was looking for something that I could apply my energies to, I could be passionate about, I could try to bring that same go all in mindset to it. And I had some friends that had pursued that in business and had gone to business school. And so that kind of piqued my interest. And so, with this whole SEAL mentality, I had learned about Stanford Business School, and I was interested in entrepreneurship.
Decent business school.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I want to go there. And people were like, well, it's really hard to get into, or it's really highly rated. I was like, you want to think about some other schools? Like, no, I want to go to that one. I want to, that's one, what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, well, then I've got to figure out how to make it work. That's where I want to go.
Well, what you just said is so important, because people always have a default backup plan. They make a commitment and they go, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll do this, which is why it doesn't work out.
Right. Well, that's right. So I felt like I had to be that sense of all in committed.
Right. So
for myself.
So we're back. So everyone's telling you, hey, be careful. You probably don't know what it takes to do it. It's probably pretty hard.
Yeah. So the big challenge there was I had to take this GMAT test, which is the standardized test for business school. And I studied for a couple months and did some practice tests and got a score. I'm like, it's a pretty good score. I'm like, well, let me see if I can get a better score before, I apply. So I spent a few more months. I got more resources and like online classes and more books, and I got the exact same score. And I was like, well, maybe that's what I can do. That's my ceiling. That score was about 50 points below Stanford's average for other students. So I was kind of like, well, we'll see what happens. But I applied, and I applied only to that school because that's where I wanted to go. And I did all these applications and essays and all that, and I got rejected. I didn't get in. And it hurt because I felt like I'd put a lot of effort into it. This is, nights and weekends, you're trying to study for this stuff.
We do that in business every day. We put in a lot of effort and it doesn't always work out the first time.
Right. And so that was the chance for me to take a deep look inside to be like, is there anything else I could have done more? Could I have pushed harder, and could I have bettered myself? And, part of me thinks like, there's no way, I gave it my best. But I had to look honest with myself and be like, that GMAT score is lower than their standard. I was not meeting the standard. And part of me thinks, well, am I capable of more? I don't even know. But the scary thing is like, am I willing to go for it again and go even harder now than I thought I was going as hard as I could? But I decided, let's give this another shot. So I got even more resources. I did even more practice tests.
Radical commitment. I ain't ringing the bell.
No, man.
It's all over.
So I think my wife at this point is kind of like, wow, this is, you sure this is worth it? You're putting a lot of time in this one test. And after several months, took it again and got my score 50 points higher. Actually got to their average. And I decided to apply again and I got in this time.
Wow.
And it was, again, another testament to how much effort it takes to get to, you're saying, the best, something that you're striving for that's worthy. And it was hard, but I think that lesson from my SEAL experience is what gave me the way.
I think a lot of people commit they want to get into this business school.
Yeah.
They do the work, they sweat, really grind it, and then they don't get in, and then that adversity changes the trajectory of their life. Instead of basically deciding not to ring the bell, they ring the bell and take another road. And the lack of best down that other road, they could still have a really best, but that was what their heart called them to do to start with. Right?
That's right. And that's the same thing. I think listening to my heart, and you have to be excited about the goal, the cause you're going after. And for whatever reason, that school represented something to me about, you talked about their next chapter, this new identity. And I knew I needed that, whereas I needed that fuel, the thing I'm going after really stirs me at a deep level. And I shouldn't settle for something that's like, well, this doesn't really stir me, but maybe this is good enough. Like, no, that matters that was placed there, and that energizes me. And I just need to now find a way to make it effort.
All the exceptional people, which is everyone we've had on our program over time, including now you, different walks of life, different backgrounds, different beliefs, different disciplines. And when I think about, Dr. Bernice King, when I think about, Nick Saban, when I think about Tim Tebow, when I think about John Gordon and Damon West, all of them different, what they all have in common is they're radically committed to what they're doing, and they don't ring bells. And they all get setbacks.
Right.
I've had a ton in my road in life, but it doesn't change where I'm going.
Right.
It's just a obstacle and an adversity, and mostly people back up then. But if you lock in and stay in, you pick up 50 more points on the GMAT score.
Yeah.
And now you're in.
Right.
And now you're in Stanford. So
yeah,
you're getting the best business school in America, maybe the best business school in the world. By the way, you also got into Harvard and Wharton.
I did.
Yeah. So, not bad. So now you're a SEAL in business, or training to be a SEAL in business, going to the best business school. So you get your degree from Stanford, and now it's time to go begin to use everything that you've just learned in the business world.
Yeah.
So what next happens? Go ahead.
And so I decided to go to the route of management consulting and joined McKinsey & Company in their Dallas office, and did that for a couple of years. That's great, kind of finishing school, giving me a chance to get that firsthand business experience. And then from there, I joined a REIT called Ashford, advising hotel service companies that they had owned, which led me to a role within one of those companies that was an event production company, put on events for corporations.
So an event for corporations.
That's right. Yeah.
They come to the hotels. You're going to do all the kind of theater and orchestra.
Audiovisual. That's right. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And how'd that go?
It went well. I became the chief operating officer. And in February 2020, we had our record revenue in the company's history, 30-plus year history. The changes we're putting in place were going well. The company's team bought into the strategy and vision that the CEO, myself, and other leadership team had done. And then March 2020, COVID hit. And
we're not doing a lot of events anymore.
Well, all of a sudden, we started getting cancellations, and it became clear like the last thing anybody wanted to do was be in a room with other people at an event. So it was really a hard industry to be in for a while there. And overnight, the business dried up, and we had a over 90% drop in revenue. And kind of put us in a crisis mode for a little bit.
It's interesting because in our industry, real estate, housing finance, the business that we're in, the COVID event initially, the first minute, felt like we were going to be similarly disposed. Who's going to buy a house anyway, right?
Yeah.
They go out, meet with other people. But instead, it led to one of the biggest housing and housing finance booms in history for 20 and 21. And we were particularly concerned, serving others before self, focused on the community, about our friends in the community in the restaurant business, our friends in the community in the training business, my trainer, Bobby Aldridge at Synergy, and dry cleaning. And so we just went out intentionally, and we told our folks that we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to sacrifice for them right now because they're all hurting, right?
Right.
And by the way, please now sacrifice for us. Come back and help us. Because the companies that were doing exceptionally well prior to COVID, really good companies, one you were involved with, that affected adversity. That affected the trajectory, at least for the moment, right? And now those companies are back and thriving.
Yeah.
And we had that first moment of thriving, and we indeed will be back someday too.
That's right.
It's just that it's our time. And in many ways, I always think that God orchestrates these moments to decide whether or not you can get better, is to face the adversity and not ring the bell.
Right.
To face the adversity and carry the boat.
Right.
And make the sacrifices that are necessary, and support the people that are around you every single day in your life, as teammates. And also what you do during those moments, it teaches your kids the most powerful lessons they'll ever learn. Because yours are younger today, all under 10.
Yeah.
But someday you'll tell the story.
Sure.
How you navigated through that period.
Yeah.
What are you doing today?
So today I'm the chief operating officer at a venture-backed startup that's a virtual reality shooting simulator called ACE. So we have...
That's the website?
acexr.com.
acexr.com. So if you were to go to like a shooting range,
yes,
right? I mean, there's a lot of people, especially in the South, that that are responsible with guns.
Sure.
That go to shooting ranges, right? And so what is this about?
Right. So it's a app on the Meta Quest 2 headset, the most popular, the Oculus headset. And then we have a hardware adapter for the controller that is ergonomically designed like a handgun, so that you get this immersive experience of as if you're at a shooting range, with the way that the ballistics work, the sights, the trigger pull, responds just like a real gun does. So you get this training value, but also it's so much fun. We got some incredible ranges, experiences, so things you can't do necessarily shooting range. Maybe it's a little unsafe. You're not too confident. So it's basically a great way to enjoy the sport of shooting. Maybe work on your proficiency in your own home. You don't need to worry about ammo costs, and you can do hundreds of ranges on there. And so we're real excited about how it really gives access to people to just become more proficient and feel empowered about how to be comfortable around a firearm.
And what's the website again?
acexr.com.
acexr.com. So if you are accustomed to going to gun ranges, you might want to go to that website and make sure you find out what alternatives, now that the world of technology continues to evolve and give us options to do things different. I've got two more questions.
Sure.
First is, when you were going through SEAL training, particularly Hell Week, and they were driving the bell around, Temptation.
Yeah.
Did you ever once think about ringing that bell?
I didn't. And that being said, I do remember a time, and it was the third night, so we're about 75 hours into no sleep and all this physical training, where I could not cognitively come up with a reason I wanted to keep doing this. It was, my brain could not. I couldn't. Well, and I think in this extreme physical exhaustion, it's most like a protective mechanism for the brain, where it didn't give me the consolation of all these motivating reasons and all these thoughts about how proud I would be. Like those just weren't coming. But the thing, I wasn't worried about that, because I wasn't leaving that decision to my mind. I had made this commitment, this radical commitment, which is more an act of the will of the heart. In a moment of clarity, I had reflected on it and worked towards it for years, in a regular environment. And so in this moment of trial, that was a time that my will was saying, does not matter. I'm not going to stop. And that was the driving force. I think the mind and the body can be great servants and terrible masters. I think they can look out for, comfort, and they can rationalize things. But in the moment of trial and difficulties is not the time to have these debates on, do I really want to do this or not? Like, no, my will is set, and it was set at a time when my mind was clear. And now my mind needs to focus on getting me through this. And my body needs to listen and say, we're going to do that, and we're not going to stop. And so I had some peace. I trusted in that decision I had made and kept going.
A radical commitment in life to spouse, to significant other, to your children, to your family, to your friends, to the community, to your church, if that's what you do. If you're me, you're radically committed as an Alabama fan.
Yeah.
But I'm for everybody, not against anybody.
Okay.
So I'm for Georgia too. But radical commitment is what you just described. And it is the pathway, in my belief, that leads you to living your very best and exceptional life. Because it does something that most don't do. Because again, most commit, and they are committed until adversity shows up and it requires something sacrificial from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they stop being as committed, or they just uncommit and try something else, do something else. And all the people that I know that travel down that road, they're unfulfilled. They wish they wouldn't have. They sometimes don't admit it to themselves, but they ultimately know deep down inside that they left, when they rang the bell, they left something, that challenge about themselves to find out something about themselves and to stretch themselves to become even better. They missed out on that. What advice? Because you have the opportunity to tell our audience today, like if you have lived an exceptional life today, humbly, I know you would say you still can do better, because we've talked about that. But the things that you've already done, and how you're married and raising kids, and now what you're doing in business, everything speaks to exceptional. So you're in a position to give all of us your best advice. Like if you were to tell everyone in the crowd today, hey, if you want to be your personal and professional best, this is what I would tell you to do.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's easy to sit and look at seemingly successful people, probably a lot of people you mentioned on this program, who are incredible athletes, and coaches and business leaders, and sit back and say, oh, well, he's got world-class athletic ability. I don't have that. Or, oh, she's got genius intellect. Of course it worked out for her. Or, oh, they've got $1 million in the bank account. I don't have that. And we can almost, give ourselves an out to be like, somehow these other people are uniquely advantaged, or gifted in ways I never will be. I guess to that, I'd say, look at myself. I don't have world-class athletic ability. I'm a decent athlete, but not a professional athlete level. I'm not a genius. I'm smart, but I don't have that, and I still don't have $1 million in the bank account. And I think the thing that I attribute any success I've had to in life has been this superpower of radical commitment. In some element, that has been that core that has led me to something. And to be honest, it's a path that's not necessarily going to lead to fame and riches and power. And so that's something just to be aware of. But it can lead to I think a deeper place of meaning and fulfillment that those other things can't give. And so, that superpower, so to speak, is something that I feel is open to everybody. I think the Navy SEAL ethos has this phrase, and it's kind of the ethos is basically some of these beliefs, the philosophy of Navy SEALs. It has this phrase, it's a common man with an uncommon desire to succeed. I think that really says it all right there, that you can look at people like Navy SEALs and think they're different, but really a lot of them are really common men. And that uncommon desire is that radical commitment that they've had. And that's certainly been the case with me. And so I would, encourage anyone to listen to what are those callings placed on your heart, where you're feeling the desire to make a radical commitment. It could be something in your professional life, or certain skill that you want to pursue, a certain craft or a certain professional goal that maybe seems a little like a dream, but to really take it seriously and go after it. It could be in relationships, maybe, what kind of boyfriend or girlfriend, mom, dad, husband, wife, son, daughter you want to be, and what you're feeling called to do to serve your loved ones, and think about how you can go deeper there. And, it could also be a cause in your community. It may be in a way you feel called to serve your local church, your community, your country, in a way that cause is meaningful to you. It's an honorable cause to really think about that and listen to that and live it. And I promise you'll be glad you did. And I guess in conclusion, I would say, radical commitment is the ultimate authentic thrill in life.
Wow. Rich, I'm richer for knowing you now. And we often get confused about what the term rich means. Most people immediately move to financial richness. But the best people I've ever met, my dad, your dad, whether or not they were financially rich, they were so rich in abundance because they were radically committed, and they poured that into our lives. And you're living it every single day. And I just, again, want to thank you for your service to our country. I want to thank you for being the human being that you are, and reminding us that radical commitment leads us to best. And you've been an inspiration, I know, to me and to everybody that will witness and listen to the words they hear today. So thank you so much, Conor, for being a part of our program.
It was an honor. Thank you so much.
You too, brother.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm radically committed to taking care of clients better than any company out there.
I'm radically committed to making everybody around me better.
I'm radically committed to Supreme as a whole. Pat's message being our personal and professional best.
I am radically committed to showing up and bringing all of myself in service to our associates and to our customers as we are all working together to be the very best that we can be.
I'm radically committed to my friends and family who are also my coworkers.
I'm radically committed to Supreme Lending, the team, Pat Flood, and everything our company stands for.
I'm radically committed to all of my fellow Supreme associates. Love my family.
I am radically committed to making the best of this life with all my friends. We are a great group of people, and we're radically committed to just being the best.